Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of One Meal a Day Modified. So, yes, I put on my most serious voice because I have some serious food here. Yesterday we went to Bear's Smokehouse barbecue and I had half a rack of ribs. I have a quarter of a rack left right here. And a few burnt ends, which is brisket at their place. And a tiny taste of macaroni and cheese because I wanted some, but I didn't want a lot because it is just full of cream and cheese. It's not the cheesiest macaroni and cheese, but you know, get a little taste of that. And of course, a nice, big, broad stalk of what? Broccoli! Yay! It's simply steamed. And then I prepared this large fruit salad, which I will nibble off of throughout part of the day. And for dessert, a lovely key lime Noosa yogurt. I haven't had Noosa in a while because I think I was getting tired of it, and then I was trying different flavors that I did not like. It's just my personal taste, but the coconut, I thought I was going to love it, but it literally has huge, well, I consider them to be huge chunks of coconut in it. Then I tried raspberry and some blueberry. Blueberry isn't bad, but the thing is, with their fruit flavors, they need to add like a little more fruit to it. For whatever reason, the lemon, the lime, it sort of marinates throughout the yogurt. So when you have it, even if you only ate the yogurt part of it and not the little bit of fruit at the bottom, and I will show you the little fruit at the bottom, it's still super tasty. But for whatever reason with the other fruit flavors, it doesn't, like the flavor doesn't soak through the yogurt that much. But anyway, today's video is about one thing: grocery shopping. And I'm just going to tell you or give you a list of my top 25 regular grocery shopping list items. On occasion, yes, I might add something else to the list, but 90% of the time, this list is pretty much exactly what we end up buying. And for example, when I mention lamb, there are several cuts of lamb. We buy several cuts of lamb, so I'm not going to go into every cut. I will just mention the word lamb. So just going to zoom right through it for you, but first place that we always hit, and most stores are set up this way now, is the fruit and veg area. In that area, the funny thing is, when it's my husband and I, daughter, we already know exactly what we're going to get. So the two of us or three of us will just go off and just pick up these items. But lemon, limes, awesome for flavoring food. Onions, shallots. I buy red onions sometimes, yellow onions sometimes. Always pick up a bag of shallots. Peppers, you know I like my hot stuff, but we also buy bell pepper. Cabbage, lettuces. We buy a variety of cabbages and a variety of lettuces. Mushrooms. Mushrooms are something that my husband and I like, so we kind of go crazy on those sometimes. Ginger, fresh, powder, you know, if it's already been powdered, whatever. Ginger is always there. Organic berries, whatever is in season, whatever looks really good. Pineapple, it can be pre-sliced, it could be whole. Melons, I mostly like cantaloupe and watermelon. Sometimes we'll throw a honeydew on there. Protein, I already mentioned the lamb. That's not lamb. That is definitely not lamb. But lamb, beef, chicken, fish. And sometimes we'll, as you know, which I didn't have this on my list, but sometimes if it's on sale, then we will pick up the al fresco sausage. Tea, green tea, herbal tea. We like our tea. And then spices and herbs. I always make sure, because you know I have quite a few spices and herbs. And here are some of them. And they're in there like 3 or 4 deep. This shelf I think is like 5 deep. And I use these spices regularly, and we regularly have to restock them. But for example, I will not always have black peppercorn on the list because we buy it in quantity. And of course you have your crushed dried red pepper. And then I have things that I process and dry myself, my own like herbal blends that I put together. I'm not going to take all this out because, wow, that would be a lot. But we have like our own, you know, blends that we put together. And because of that, I don't need to buy, like, for example, salt. You don't have to buy salt every time you go to the grocery. Like, you shouldn't have to. We do have some Sazon in here. I buy it in a big box versus a couple packets at a time. So yes, I do buy a lot more spices than what are on my list, but these are the things that I have to buy regularly because we use them a lot. Is this I think that's a yeah, there's a ginger. Got that from Bogner's. Thank you, Melanie. My sister bought me a few spices as well, because she knows I'm the spice queen. But, you know, so we have lots of spices, because I know if you look at some of my other videos, you'll be like, wait a minute, when she does recipes or creates different recipes, there's like a lot more spices. And that is true. But these are the spices: the turmeric, curry, basil, and granulated garlic are the things that I run out of the most often. Then I hit the dairy aisle. I know a lot of people have pros and cons regarding dairy. Dairy has been in the human diet for so many years, hundreds and hundreds of years. And there are people such as my grandmother and others that have lived to be 100 or more, or almost 100 years old. There's nothing wrong with dairy in moderation, in my own opinion. Check with your doctor. If you have like an allergy or whatever, then obviously dairy is not for you. But in the dairy aisle, I always pick up, if we need it, yogurt, eggs, and cheese. I believe that you should buy a better quality cheese, or at least buy what you can afford. However, do not buy processed cheese foods or things that are only 50 or 30% cheese. Like, it should be 100% cheese. And as well as your yogurt, you know, buy what you can afford, but just make sure the yogurt actually has a lot of nutritional value. And, you know, for eggs, you know, we usually buy Eggland's Best, brown eggs or white eggs, doesn't matter. But there's also Land O'Lakes and Neely's and some others out there that we buy if we can't find decent, you know, eggs that we're looking for. Or obviously, if I go to one store, they may not have what I'm looking for, but at the other, there's always like a secondary alternative. Here, you can look at the colors of the fruit. And then the other miscellaneous items that are always on the list are fruit cups, because they're easy to, like, this is not easy to put into a container and go, because you might end up having it leak all over the place. But if you have a pre-sealed fruit cup, those are easy, and they're sweet, and they're tasty, and they're refreshing if it's like hot outside, or if you're working out or doing gardening or whatever it is you're doing. or you're at the beach, they're really good in a cooler. And of course you get that little burst of fruit juice in there as well. And you just need to look for fruit cups that are packed in 100% natural fruit juices. And I mean, there's so many varieties out there. You have to find what actually suits you. But you also, want to know, you want just 100% fruit and 100% fruit juices to get the best nutrition. The other thing is I always, as a backup, have Newman's Own pizza. And I will show you one of those. And this is Newman's Own white pizza, but they do have like, I'm going to call it like a meat lover's pizza, but I say that very gently because if you truly like meat lover's pizza, that pizza does not have as much meat on it as you're going to get from a traditional garbage, junky, high calorie, even if it's a high quality pizza from a mom and pop shop. You get, like you see here, little bits here and there, but these pizzas are packed full of flavor. And as you can see, 100% of the profits really do go to charity. And then you have the handsome Paul Newman on everything, God rest his soul, or the gods should rest his soul if there are gods. But they do have a variety of flavors. There's a Mediterranean one. So there's, several different offerings. This is my favorite, the white pizza. And what I do is I actually always have some extra spinach if I'm going to have this, usually I buy a bag of spinach or I have some that's frozen and I add a lot more spinach to it. And I might even hit it with some parm, like add a little more Parmesan cheese to it because it has no Parmesan on it, which it doesn't have to have. And it's mozzarella and has ricotta. You can add a little more ricotta to this if you wanted to. So you could kind of like jazz it up a little bit. You can add your own peppers to it, mushrooms, whatever. The only thing I would say is make sure if you do that, you slice anything you add to it very, very thin. Because the crust on this is sort of a semi-cracker crust, but it's really not a cracker crust. The outside is a little bit crunchy on the crust, but the underlying part of it is, if you cook these correctly, it's cooked really well. And it has like a little bit of a chewiness to it. The crust, it's a really good crust. It's probably my favorite pizza crust out of any pizza crust anywhere. So, what is the final thing on my grocery list? I will give you 1 second to guess. You're wrong. Or you might be right. You could be correct. It is a treat. Usually I will allow us to have a treat. So for example, if my husband wants, let's just say, Cape Cod potato chips, he likes those as a treat, he will select that as his treat. Whatever treat you want, you're allowed to select. Usually I pick something frozen like ice cream bars or some sort of, popsicle, like fruit bars. Like I do like the, this particular brand of fruit bar. These are the Outshine Strawberry, but I love their pineapple as well. And they do have a lot of flavors. And yeah, so this was my treat that I picked out this time. And there's 6 in a box, and you just have one whenever you want one, but when you run out, it's done, you're finished. So yeah, those are the top 25 items that are always on our grocery list. Down in the comments, is there anything you would add to my grocery list? If so, please just drop it down there so I could see and maybe get an idea of future things to add to the grocery list. Obviously, the grocery list that that I shared with you is just food, things that we would consume. But obviously we buy toiletries and cleaning products and paper products and other things. So don't put those down below. But, you know, if there are other food items that you would suggest, and I mean like staples, like we always have a huge canister of my special rice blend. And, you know, we have, you know, other normal staples. But regardless, just share your ideas. I'd appreciate it. Remember to give us a thumbs up, leave your comment, and subscribe and share. Thank you. And remember that health is wealth.